Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering? If the answer is yes, then you're ready.
Hi guys, so I'm gonna start doing this thing where I tell you guys some ways that I figured out I was gender fluid while doing my makeup. So what is gender fluid? It's a gender identity that means you have no fixed gender. It's constantly fluctuating, it's changing, you don't fit into one gender. Now this is a hard identity to have because you're constantly feeling really connected to one gender, but then the next minute or next week you will feel the complete opposite. Or not even just the complete opposite, just feel differently. But when you talk about it with other people or like realize that your gender is changing and you can recognize the cycle of, oh my god, I feel like I finally found a gender that fits me, like, oh my god, yes, I'm a gender. But then the next day you're like, no, I'm a boy. After a few weeks or a few months of that, you can recognize that there's a pattern, and it's not always just you finding a new gender. It's your gender identity feeling fluid. The gender fluidity is fluiding. So how did I personally figure it out? Honestly, I had no idea. I thought I was just non-binary for a while, and I started dressing really androgynous because I thought that's what you had to do. And then I was like, wait, I really like feel like I want to wear like clothes that I used to wear. Like I want to be like a girl. Like I want to be like dress like a popular straight girl. And that's like one of my like genders that I feel like, straight cis girl, but not actually, I'm not straight, I'm a lesbian, but it's just like the stereotypical like that. And I realized, I was like, am I confused or am I faking it when I feel non-binary? But then when I feel non-binary, I was like, was I faking being a girl? But then if you journal about it, or if you even make a calendar, you print out a calendar or have a calendar on your phone and you color it in with literally just a Snapchat filter, you could color it in, like have each gender you feel, or each like mask, femme, androgynous, hypermask, hyperfemme, can have their own colors. You can fill that out every day or every few days, and you can notice a pattern and notice you're not faking it, you're just gender fluid. And non-gender fluid people wouldn't understand how it feels like so strongly that you're just faking it and you feel like really like imposter syndrome, but I get it, you're valid. Here's my androgynous whatever makeup.
White women at an event I recently attended raised their hand to share that she felt her creativity as a writer was being unjustly stifled because of her race by identity politics, and that she should be able to write about experiences that aren't her own without being judged as long as her work is authentic.
I always find it profoundly disingenuous when I hear white authors complaining about how their creativity is being stifled by judgment when it comes to the representation of minorities. It's a tried and tested method of shifting the debate from what it should be, which is the material difficulties that authors who are not cisgendered and white have had throughout history to make their voices heard, to their own feelings of what oppression is. What I would ask to that disingenuous woman who raised that point in the middle of a public forum to make herself the center of attention and to cause some controversy and potentially gather some buzz around her name, because that sells, is the question of who is stopping her. Who is stopping her or any white author from doing whatever the hell they want? Are the doors of her house being torn down by police, by the justice system, by the army because she decided to represent or misrepresent a minority? Because let's get our facts straight. Being told things that you perceive as mean, being judged by others, is not the same as material oppression, is it? It's not the same as not having access to the structures of publication because there is no diversity in the roster of the people that you hire to actually edit and publish the books. Because if we look at percentage of people who are published in the Western world and who that demographic is, the publishing industry doesn't seem to have a problem with white authors representing minorities. So what is factually stopping her? It's herself. because she cannot endure receiving anything but praise. So this is a discussion that is not worth having, because no matter how much she tries, her material advantages when it comes to the publishing world are such that she thinks that being judged by people who are not going to be able to stop her from publishing is the same thing as oppression.
Okay, a lot of cisgender women on my recent videos are really mad at me because I said that being a cis woman was a privilege, and they were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Being a woman is not a privilege. That's true. Being born a woman in a patriarchy is not a privilege. You are absolutely oppressed by being a woman, and no one's denying you that. The privilege is to be born cisgender. The privilege is to identify with what you were assigned at birth because the world is built to accept you. You don't have the same barriers to healthcare, housing, social acceptance, pay grades that transgender people do. Even though you may not have it great because you're a woman, you don't have it twice as bad because you're trans. Look into Kimberly Cranshaw's work about intersectionality because she breaks it down so much better than I do, and it's Black History Month, so go learn your Black history because this woman is amazing. She talks about how you can have intersecting identities and how you can hold privilege in some identities and marginalization in another. For example, I have the utmost privilege by being a white person, right? But I'm also transgender, and so in other circumstances I don't have privilege, and those two things intersect. The same is true for being a cisgender woman. I hope it helps.
Today, I'm going to share a few things with you that have completely changed my life as a menstruating human. First, I want to start with this book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. This is such an empowering book for women or anyone who has a menstrual cycle. This tells you the ins and outs of your own body, symptoms to expect, how you can track your own cycle, your own emotional patterns, as well as natural birth control methods. It's honestly so empowering, and it makes me so sad that the public school system completely failed us as women with this sort of knowledge. Next is reusable period products. These have completely changed the game for me. Not only are they zero waste, but you can wear the cup up to 12 hours and I'm never concerned or worried about leaks or anything anymore. It's like I'm not even on my period. Next, if you struggle with emotional and hormonal problems on your period, look into seed cycling.
Hey TikTok, don't we all know that we hate mansplainers? I've been trying to tell this guy that he's confusing two things that people does get confused a lot, like interior designer and interior decorator. Those are two different things, but he thinks those are the same when they're not. And I've been interested in like interior design for the past year and a half, so I know what I'm talking about. But he's trying to tell me that I do not know what I'm talking about, and that I'm talking out of my ass, which I am not. My great aunt is an interior designer, and he thinks I don't know anything, and I'm just talking. I'm not just talking. I'm only talking about things I know things about. And I know you might say, why are you so annoyed about this? I really hate when people tell me I'm wrong when I know I'm not. And the difference between an interior designer and an interior decorator is the interior decorator is decorating the house with furniture, but he keeps saying that that's an interior designer, which it is not. An interior designer is the one who creates the floor plan of the house, like layout, light fixtures, stuff like that. But he's telling me it's not that. Apparently it's not that. Thank you, mansplainers. Thank you. I'm done with that conversation because he's not gonna get it into his thick head what I'm trying to tell him. Just gonna not respond to his next comment because I'm dreading it. It's gonna be just as mansplaining and every other comment he has left. I'm not angry. I'm not trying to be a bitch, but God, I'm pissed.
So we're like 9 days away from Christmas, and I just want to remind everybody that the reason you love the holidays so much is probably because of the unpaid labor of women. Like for most of us, when we think of like our fondest memories of like Christmas or like Thanksgiving or whatever you do around this time of year is like, oh, the fancy meals that we have. Oh, I love all the presents under the trees. I love Christmas baking. I love going places, etc., etc. A lot of that, for most of us, is going to come from the unpaid labor of women, specifically mothers. And what I mean by that is, like, realistically, for most of us, your mother or grandmother is going to be doing all of the cooking. Your mother also did all the Christmas shopping. Your mother also probably wrapped all of the presents under the tree. Your mother did all of that baking. In a previous video, I asked people like what the divine feminine looks like, and a lot of people said it's being receptive, it's receiving. But in my humble opinion, there is nothing more feminine than being a giver and giving everything you have to the people you love.